Good afternoon, fellow seekers. Hi, I'm Claudia Edge, and I have been invited to share an experience with you. That's why I'm in front of you. I died, it's been a number of years ago. I was 30 years old. I'm almost 70 now, so it's been a minute, but it's vivid. It never leaves you. Once you visited the other side, there's nothing like it. And I'd like to tell you about it and some things that have happened since that might be of interest. You know, there are a lot of us out there talking about near death experiences, and I know there are a lot of you seeking answers out there. Again, I was 30 years old. I was pregnant. I was about to give birth any day. I was approaching my due date, had an absolutely normal pregnancy. I was a healthy young mother, and really nothing should have gone wrong. But I found myself thinking all day that I should go and be checked. I should go to the hospital and be checked. And it's one thing that I wanted to share with you guys as far as instinct and that gut feeling that you get. And, you think, should I do this? Should I not do this? Should I go there? Should I turn right? Should I turn left? Kind of thing. And nobody is smarter. Your own gut is your best answers. And for me, I did. I followed that instinct and I went to the hospital and I said, look, I'm not in pain. I don't know. I'm not necessarily anxious, but something is not quite right. And I'd like to be checked. You know, when you say I'm not having contractions, no. You know, my attention seeker, I don't know. They finally said, here's a gown. We'll check you out. And so I went into the examination room and put the gown on. And I'd only been in there under 5 minutes when I noticed drops of blood on the floor. And then it was more than that. In fact, shock alert here, but if you've ever seen The Shining and when the elevator door opens and this rush of blood comes out, that it was like buckets dropping. It was what had happened, and I'll tell you now because I sometimes I forget to mention that it was my placenta, which is a filter between mother and baby and regulates the baby, feeds the baby, all of that good stuff. It's necessary in a pregnancy. Mine had been filling up with blood, and it had gotten bigger and tighter and firmer, full of blood. And for whatever reason, it was not exiting. And so each pump of blood into it, it just got tauter and tauter until it exploded. And thank God I'd followed my instinct to be at the hospital when this happened. Within minutes, an intern was found, and he proclaimed, this lady's got 2 minutes of life left. This is how fast things changed for me, my life, my family, everything. They basically pushed me down on a gurney, and they could not get a heartbeat on my baby. And very distressing for, a young mother to hear these things. And my concern was, please save my baby. And they basically brought in a scalpel to the examination room. Again, no time for operating room or anesthesia or oxygen or, a warm blanket. Even an aspirin was out of the question. They held down my arms and legs and proceeded to cut my baby out. Gory, awful, terrible. The non-pain that I had been in earlier was gone now. It was so bad. It was so painful. And between this horrible room of blood and gore, they had to move my organs out of the way to get to the baby. And at one point, as I was being held down, and the only thing that part of me that I could move was that writhing of my head back and forth. That was the only thing I could do. And as I was going back and forth, I looked and noticed that a nurse was actually wrapping this gray rope around her arm. And the pain was so bad, realizing it was my intestines was pretty darn dire. And I just got to a point when they lifted that little lifeless body from me, just everything added up to, I'm out of here. And what I wanted to express too was, The dying process, that's no fun, definitely. But for those of you who are afraid of death, the actual death, that movement between this earth life and into that unknown, I just like to offer that it is not a big deal. It really was familiar, like I have done this before, like it was muscle memory to float. I was going through walls in the hospital. I was really kind of having a good time at first. After I had, just checked out the body, checked out the room, and went. And my body, let me add here, I was still me. I was still Claudia. Everything up here, my memories, my thoughts, my personality was intact. The only thing that I had left behind was this shell, this outer shell, my overalls, my work outfit for Earth. It was like I didn't need it anymore. And so I shed it and I was free. And I explored the hospital. I won't tell you all of the shenanigans, but I ended up in a gentleman's room and kind of doing a, you know, thing in front of him, and he didn't know I was there. And that's when I realized I was dead. It was so natural before that I honestly had not had that thought come through my head that, oh my goodness, I'm dead. So as soon as I thought that, I was in this another place, another dimension, that it was instantaneous, and I was in this vastness. It's really hard to describe. Earth words are really limited, and which is one of the problems I had about talking about my NDE, because I was in this amazing place that was everything and nothing all at the same time. And it was in complete and total darkness. It was black. If I'd had a hand, I wouldn't have been able to see it in front of my face. But it wasn't scary. It wasn't unnatural. It wasn't negative. It was absolutely perfect. I was so loved. I was so held and comforted and cradled within this alive, intelligent. It knew everything about me, and it just swaddled me like a loved child. And I was completely satisfied to be in this place. It wasn't long before I started to hear being called back to earth. This was of the other side. This is what my immediate experience gave me, was a perfect place of total darkness. So when I woke up in the hospital, now a prime candidate for research study, because I was completely lucid within my death experience. I had no drugs, anything, no anesthesia to contend, with, as far as, she's hallucinating, she's on a psycho whatever. No, there was none of that. And this was a teaching hospital. And so there was great interest in what I had seen and felt during this experience. So when I was asked, what happened when you were dead? Who did you see? Did you hear anything? And I didn't have a good answer other than I was in absolute peace and absolute perfection in this black space, in this darkness. And I saw negativity from the researcher, taking notes on her billboard. With that flash of negativity, I realized that this was going to be something that I was going to have to, because I couldn't explain it, because I'd never heard an NDE like it. Who was I, and how come my experience wasn't wonderful? Seeing the garden, seeing the river of life, a mountaintop, being with grandma, any of those wonderful things that you as seekers, I'm sure, have heard. It just wasn't there. And so if this researcher is going to pause and go, I wondered what my family, what my friends, what my religion, those, neighbors and that who might judge as I spoke openly about this. So I didn't. I didn't speak about it. I didn't speak about it for 25 years. I kept it sacred and within me until I could understand it. And I went on with my life and busy mom, a lot of kids running around. But as they grew, it started to pop back up. And I started to question again, where had I been and how come, wasn't I that good? Did I not deserve the kind of heaven that others talked about in their near-death experiences? And I started to pray about it and I asked about it and I wanted to know my guide, and it became a real need for me to find out how come. I just felt like there was so much more, and how come I had only had recall of, someone wanted to call it the void, and I was like, no, because a void to me is void of something. It's missing something. And I call it vastness because it was so big. It was enormous. It was beyond. And I started having dreams. Well, I was having dreams, but what was happening in my dreams is I was noticing in the corner of just the regular kind of dreams, my guide was showing up. I didn't know it was my guide at the time, but when I would notice him, that he was doing either weird movements, wearing a weird costume, whatever he could do to get my attention within this dream and still keep me in a sleep state. When I did notice him, he'd hold up a sign and say, pay attention to this, or come with me. And we would practice that. He would practice that on me until I got it. And for whatever reason, now I was accompanying him. I was beginning to get downloads of memory. When I went with him, I was attending what I called spirit school, because I was giving, when you ask the big questions, why are we here? What is my purpose? Is there a reason? Are we just a lucky, like a bug on this earth, and when it's over and squish and we're done? Or was there something bigger and better waiting for us, and why? I've heard everything from we're here to act perfectly and see if we can't, come back and fit into heaven without sin or anything like that. I had all kinds of questions like this, and I wanted answers, and so I kept asking. And during these memory downloads and my spirit school, I started getting answers. And I can't proclaim to easily give you those answers, for one thing, because there has to be a foundation of knowledge of, I get that. Now we can move on to the second layer and third layer and beyond. And so I understand why it's so hard for the other side to just answer our questions, because the knowledge is so big. Our little brains just can't hold it. My little brain couldn't hold it. But what I was shown was where I had gone and the knowledge that I had received, what I was able to bring back. I was shown a paper cup. And in that cup, I had an ocean full of knowledge, but it was in little droplets. And so I have been examining those little droplets for all of these years, one by one. But my memory was of being in a clear, kind of like a bubble, a sphere or something. And I was with my guide, and we were traveling through the universe. I mean, talk about amazing experience. It was enough to really take it in. It was fast, but it was not light speed. But I could see the stars approaching. As we would come to a star, what I realized is the stars are conscious. They were speaking to me. They were calling out to me and saying, "Oh, Claudia's back. Oh, how was it? We've missed you. Welcome back." Just such loving things coming my way, and I'm in this bubble. I can hear it. I can see perfectly, and the colors as we approach these stars. It was like fire. It had the yellows and pinks and oranges, and it was just amazing. And it would leave kind of a tail as we skirted by. But then there would be another approaching star that I could hear it talking, calling out to me in this praise and in wonderment and happiness to see me. It was amazing that I'm looking at my guide and going, the stars can talk. The stars are alive. They're real. It's not just a clump of, gases and metal and dirt and everything else. It's like there is consciousness in the universe. It was one of my bigger ahas. And when I woke up, I pondered it for a long time. And I kept asking, are the stars conscious? Are we stars? A lot of questions. And in one dream segment, my guide gave me an opportunity to ask. Well, he pointed up and he says, "You want to see your brother's star?" Now, I have a brother, Jeff, who has been in the gym his entire life. He's a little bit younger than me, not much, but he's been muscled and, suntanned and oiled down for his entire life. The gym is a really big thing for him. And when my guide pointed to Jeff's star, the star kind of did a little, extra twinkle, shall we put it, a little show off twinkle. And I went, "Oh my God, that's my brother. That's Jeff Star perfectly." Again, I had to ponder, it's like, are we stars? How are we here and how are we a star? I don't have all the answers. I'm still mortal. I've only been able to, again, to carry back so much knowledge from my NDE. So I'm still seeking. I'm out there listening to other podcasts and that as I'm looking for more pieces to my own spiritual puzzle. But what I got a few months ago, and this I haven't talked about on any shows because I wanted to say something special for you guys, was I had another dream experience a few months ago. And it was about being in a nebula. I was up in the universe and I was accompanied by a lot of little children. Now, again, I've mentioned my age. I was a kid in the 50s and we dressed different. And what was shown me was in kind of that black and white brown. It wasn't full on color. It was showing me the age of these children, which were right about third grade, maybe fourth grade, but quite young, but not babies. And they were calling them primaries. And when you get information from the other side, they usually try and relate it to something, because I'm not saying that I was, say, 8 years old or something. What it is equating to is my progression to that point, my spiritual progression to that point. My education was right about in that level. I could be eons before that, but in my educational, spiritual achievements and whatnot, this is where I was. So here I am in a nebula where stars are being formed with these children, and we were lined up and we were expecting something. We were being given a gift. Our gift was our own star, and we were in wait for the birth of each star. And what it was shown to me, again, metaphor examples, right? It's not exactly how it happens on the other side, but things are shown so that I can wake up, I can write them down, I can repeat them to you. So this is what I saw, was a tube type thing, huge, of course, with this rolling mass of gases and dirt and energy and everything else that compress and make a planet, make a star. And it was rolling around in this tube and rising little by little as it compressed and formed. And when it got towards the top, the child who was waiting for their star was given an opportunity to make it their own, to decorate it. Again, an example. But I remember a little girl in front of me, she wanted hers to be pink. She was going to have a pink star. And there was another little boy who really wanted to make it different. He was into Lincoln logs, those little wooden logs that fit together. And he was building some kind of little tower things on the outside of it. So it just had these funky things all over it. That was his star. I woke before I had the opportunity to decorate mine. I only wonder what I would have come up with or what I did come up with for my star. But it really answered the question of, you know, we are starseed. We are from the stars. We do have a permanent place to go. This is, there's still more coming, more information on this. But I thought I would give you something a little bit different today from my NDE. So I'm trying to think if there was any more that I wanted to tell. There's so much more I'd want to tell you, but we have limited time here today. But I wanted to offer when you look up to the stars tonight, understand that they're not just a pretty background, for romance. They're intelligent and they know us and they are us. Thanks for listening. I'm Claudia Edge. Bye bye.